My mother called the cops on me for stealing the gold bars we bought together. 10 years ago, I used my first year's salary to go halves with my mother on 100 grams of gold bars. Today, I was diagnosed with gallstones requiring laparoscopic surgery. Cost $30,000. I'd just been laid off. Money was tight. To pay for the surgery, I asked Mom if we could sell the gold we bought together. She looked at me with tears in her eyes, agreeing immediately. Oh, my poor daughter. You lost your job because you took all that time off to care for me in the hospital. Now you're sick and I can't help you financially. Let's sell the gold right away. Use the money from your share to pay for your treatment. By evening, I was exhausted, holding the gold bars. I planned to convert them to cash first thing in the morning, but then the police knocked on my door. Ma'am, someone has reported you for stealing her gold bars. You need to come with us. Chapter 1. Opening the door, I found officers standing there, looking at me with barely concealed contempt. I was still in my pajamas, my face pale from illness. The pajamas that had fit snugly 3 years ago now hung loose on my frame. Minutes earlier, I'd been curled up in bed, paralyzed by gallbladder pain, cold sweat soaking my back, wondering if death was coming for me. Now I had to force my sick body upright to deal with false accusations. I pressed one hand against my abdomen, the other bracing against the doorframe. My fingers looked like dead winter branches, fragile enough to snap. The officer looked me up and down with disdain. What's your relationship to Margaret Thompson? Fighting through the pain, I answered weakly, she's my mother. He snorted. She's reported that you stole her 100-gram gold bars. Hand over the stolen property and come with us for questioning. Cooperate and things will go easier. The commotion drew my neighbors out to watch. One immediately posted a video in our building's group chat. Apartment 903 stole from her own mother. Police are here. I always knew something was off about her. Always alone, never smiles. No wonder she has no morals, a thief. I live above her. Always hear loud noises at night. Turns out she's a criminal. What kind of daughter steals from her own mother? Should have gotten a dog instead. Everyone check if you're missing anything. Let's deal with this all at once. My phone buzzed with notifications from the building chat. My emotions churned, but I still explained truthfully, handing the gold to the police. There must be some mistake. My mother and I bought this together years ago. I'm sick and need money for surgery. I discussed it with her and she agreed to sell it. A watching neighbor laughed. Nice act. You weren't this sick a few days ago. Faking illness to avoid consequences? Karma will get you eventually. Days of pain had worn down my patience. Her malicious words made me snap. Breathing heavily, face flushed with anger, I shot back, you're slandering me without evidence, calling me a thief in the group chat, and now mocking me to my face? Didn't your parents teach you basic decency? The officer, seeing my agitation, stepped protectively between us. The neighbor from 901 grew more smug. Oh, touched a nerve? Better prepare your coffin instead of arguing with me. You'll be dead in the streets soon enough. I was usually pleasant to my neighbors. This woman's daughter often came to my apartment to watch cartoons and eat fruit. I'd never wronged them. I couldn't understand such venom. Rage made me shake. I tried to step forward to confront her. The officer, thinking I meant violence, grabbed me in a restraining hold, pinning me to the ground like a dog. Pain exploded through my body. My pajama top rode up during the struggle, exposing skin yellow with illness, ribs visible through wasted flesh. The watching neighbors gasped. She really does look sick. Another officer quickly cuffed my hands behind my back to prevent escape. My wrists were already raw and bleeding from the struggle. The neighbor from 901 grew even more excited, immediately posting photos online. Look everyone. The thief got arrested. Karma's real. Chapter 2. In the police car, another wave of gallbladder pain hit. I curled into myself, trying to breathe through it. The officer beside me hesitated, then asked suspiciously, "Are you on drugs? Is that why you needed money and stole from your mother? Your symptoms really look like." Shaking with pain, I managed to get out, "No, sick, gallbladder, need money, for surgery." The older officer driving scoffed. "We've heard that excuse before. If you really needed surgery, wouldn't your mother help instead of calling the cops? Any mother would sell everything to save her child." Through my fading consciousness, I mumbled, "Yes, that's what mothers should do." The officer found my rambling confusing, but dismissed it as drug-induced. He mocked, "I've seen plenty like you. Stealing your parents' retirement money for your habits. Your mother's the one who's really sick." I saw the 4 bandage on her hand. The abdominal pain was overwhelming. My vision blurred. As I lost consciousness, I felt my spirit briefly leave my body, taking me back in time. Senior year of college, my roommates found a fortune teller's live stream. We tipped him to read our birth charts. My roommates all had good fortunes, natural wealth, blessed lives, ancestral protection. When it came to me, the young fortune teller frowned deeply. He declared my fate, weak family bonds, short life, poverty, bringing misfortune to relatives. After studying my chart more carefully, his expression softened. This is a false adverse fate. Your true destiny requires surviving family betrayal to achieve late success. Only at rock bottom will your fate reverse. My roommates tried to comfort me, saying he was a fraud. I didn't care about poverty or a hard life, those meant nothing to someone with my rotten fate. But weak family bonds burned like acid in my heart. I knew how desperately I always craved my parents' attention and love. The gentle looks they gave my brother never once fell on me. The encouraging words I only heard when eavesdropping on them, praising him, hiding like a sewer rat. I'd pretend they were talking about me, not him. For over 20 years, I had the same recurring dream. In it, my parents belonged only to me. I became my brother, wearing his skin, greedily enjoying everything that wasn't mine. What we cannot have will haunt us forever. Chapter 3. To get my parents' attention, I first tried faking illness. But they didn't care about my health. The longer I was sick, the more they saw me as a worthless burden. Then I got straight A's, won awards, became class president. These achievements earned a few glances, but they still insisted my brother was smarter. Boys develop later. He doesn't need to study hard, as naturally intelligent. Just wait and see. Finally, I learned to please them, doing chores, serving tea, washing my brother's underwear. At last, they praised me. Our daughter's growing up. Such a help around the house. What a good sister, especially washing your brother's underwear and shoes. So thoughtful. We didn't raise you for nothing. If you could also clean his room, that would be even better. Their approval was my drug, my bait, my candy. I willingly became the family servant, groveling for my parents' affection, even my brother's. After starting work, I spent my first paycheck on jewelry for mom, my bonus on shoes for dad. I used my performance bonus on a laptop for my brother, keeping only $10 for myself for the beef noodle soup I'd dreamed of since childhood but never tasted. My brother saw the noodles and wrinkled his nose in disgust. Why are you eating that? When you were in school, Dad would drop you off, then take me for these every day. I'm sick of the smell. His words froze me. Something inside my chest wanted to tear through flesh and bone to escape. Tears fell uncontrollably into the soup, mixing with the spicy broth. These noodles are salty. Not as good as I imagined. Should have dreamed of something else. I turned away, pretending not to care, and scrolled through my phony me brother's hand-me-down when he got bored of it. The video that appeared made the noodles stick in my throat. I watched it repeatedly until the phone died, but the robotic voice haunted me. People pleasers are those who lacked love in childhood, always putting others first, overly concerned with others' opinions, insecure, sensitive, self-loathing, understanding everything intellectually but finding no emotional peace. I put down the phone, scoffing at the motivational garbage. My parents love me. I'm not some pathetic case study. I was so stupid then, trying to buy love with money and servitude. But looking back, I was just a young person desperate to be loved. All the suffering that followed grew from that desperate need. If I could do it over, what other choice did that helpless young woman have? If even I blamed her for her choices, that would be the ultimate self-betrayal. This whole charade about family love I'd written, directed, and starred in it myself, playing the fool, unwilling to wake up. Chapter 4. Wake up. We're at the station. Time to explain how you stole that gold. In the mediation room, my brother sat with Mom. She was whispering to him tensely. I had no idea gold prices had gotten so high. Over $1,000 per gram now. My brother played on his phone, ignoring her. The officer brought me in and asked Mom to explain again. Her face scrunched up, but she didn't change her story. Yes, she stole my gold, but we're still family. If she returns it, I won't press charges. The senior officer slammed the table. You hear that? Your mother's still protecting you. Despite what you did. Confess. Mom glanced at me guiltily. I knew her well enough to understand she was gambling that I had no proof we'd bought the gold together 10 years ago. Why should I be grateful when she's the one destroying me? I laughed bitterly at the absurdity. Rage made me gasp for air, my chest heaving, lungs burning as if I could tear open my chest. Blood rushed to my head. Despite being cuffed to the chair, I kept trying to stand. I wanted to defend myself. My wrists were rubbed raw and bloody. My voice came out pained and pleading. Mom, I'm dying. Why are you doing this? You know I didn't steal anything. The ones who frame you know best how innocent you are. Mom sat expressionless, as if I were a stranger. Seeing this, I laughed through my despair at my own pathetic life, my stupidity, my desperate clinging to family. Half my life I've been a fool. Ha! My laughter echoed in the empty room like a madwoman's. I screamed hoarsely. You're lying. 10 years ago we bought it together. Gold was $250 per gram then. I paid $20,000 for 80 grams, you paid $5,000 for 20 grams. You said you'd give it to me when I got married. But Mom, I'm dying. Yesterday you offered to let me sell it and give you your share. Mom went pale, her defense barely a whisper. If I say you stole it, you stole it. Where's your proof you paid for it? My son was there yesterday, can testify you stole it. My brother wore the Nike shoes I'd bought him, held the latest iPhone I'd gotten him with last month's commission. I'd poured so much love and money into this brother. I desperately hoped that even if he wouldn't defend me, he might stay neutral out of gratitude for all I'd done. But without looking up, he simply agreed, yeah, Mom's right. That's what happened. I felt frozen, as if thrown into winter snow. In that moment, I wished my parents had never had me, never brought me into this world to be an orphan with living parents. The watching officers were stunned by my reaction. If you both insist on your versions, then prove it. Controlling my shaking hands, fighting the abdominal pain, I pulled out a yellowed receipt from my pocket. Thank God I was sentimental. My apartment was full of old blankets and dishes I couldn't throw away. I'd even kept receipts from family outings, carefully filed. I remembered buying that gold as one of my few happy moments. Mom had said those 80 grams would be my wedding dowry. I'd thought that even though I paid, she wanted me to have face with my future in-laws despite her poverty. Her smile had been so kind, daughter, this is for your future. I was such a fool to believe such obvious lies. All these years, I'd worked hard, trying to break the curse of weak family bonds by being good to my parents and brother. But I was the only one trapped in that curse, bloodying myself against its walls. This yellowed receipt was now my last lifeline. I forced myself calm, carefully unfolded it, and handed it to the senior officer. But then Mom lunged forward like a wild bull. Cold-eyed, she snatched the receipt from my hands before I could react. I tried desperately to grab it back, but the handcuffs held me fast. By the time the officers reacted, Mom had stuffed the receipt in her mouth and swallowed. Chapter 5. The senior officer tried to stop her, but the receipt was gone. Everyone who'd been inclined to believe her fell silent. Her destruction of evidence shifted the scales of justice toward me. Mom, oblivious to the changed atmosphere, took a satisfied sip of water. Now let's see you prove anything. A female officer nearby looked pained. She came over with pity in her eyes. First she unlocked my handcuffs, then told the officers who'd arrested me, we should treat people humanely until we have solid evidence. Get some antiseptic and bandages for her wounds. Seeing my thin pajamas, she took off her jacket and draped it over my shoulders. When I sat frozen, she said gently, do you have anything else that could prove you paid for it? I collapsed on the table, tears flowing, tasting as bitter as those beef noodles years ago. The gallbladder pain had scrambled my thoughts. I shook my head, not wanting to prove anything anymore. Let me die with these false accusations. In my condition, death would come soon enough anyway. I just hadn't expected Mom to be even more eager than death itself, and greedier. The female officer sensed my despair. She got me a cup of hot water and patted my back gently. You said you're selling because you're sick. What's wrong? Can you tell me? Her kindness slowly calmed my shattered emotions. See how pathetic I was, starved for affection, any kindness made me want to keep living. I hadn't drunk water in a day. Survival instinct made me take a few sips. But seconds later, my stomach rebelled violently. I threw up everything. This was systemic digestive failure from advanced gallstones. I knew it well. The old officer, seeing I was truly ill, flushed with shame. His younger partner ran to the pharmacy. The senior officer handed me tissues and cleaned up the mess himself, too ashamed to meet my eyes. If you paid by bank transfer, that's proof too. Or text messages. Anything that proves payment, we can help you retrieve it. Chapter 6. Hope flickered in my eyes as I remembered that old hand-me-down phone from my brother. He'd been obsessed with electronics since age 8. Our parents always bought him the latest. My first year working, I'd used my performance bonus to buy him a computer. He'd complained his phone was too old and slow, tossing it to me like charity. I'd used that phone to discuss buying the gold with Mom. But when I pulled it from my pajama pocket, it was flooded with cruel messages. Even former colleagues and my boss had forwarded the neighbor's video. After a long freeze, I opened it. The video showed me being arrested, the neighbor calling me a faker, a thief. Stealing my mother's retirement fund. The comments were vicious. Women like this deserve to die young. Stealing from your own mother is disgusting. Just die already. So skinny must be on drugs. Wait for official confirmation though. Look at that cold face. Definitely the type everyone hates. Feel sorry for her neighbors. I forced myself to ignore the hate, finding my medical records to show the female officer She frowned with concern. You really do need surgery urgently. Finally able to prove my illness, some weight lifted from my chest. I smiled weakly and gathered courage to ask. The thing is, my neighbor posted that video. Online. I'm being cyberbullied now. I can't handle it. I care too much what people think. Their hate is killing me. I swallowed the rest. Yes, I was a people pleaser. I even wanted to please internet strangers. If I could, I'd bare my soul, my privacy, my dignity, anything to make them stop. What I most want to prove is that I'm really sick, not faking to avoid punishment. My voice cracked. I have to keep living after this. I don't want to be a pariah. Can you help me, please? The senior officer's eyes burned with determination. Yes. After we're done here, I'll summarize everything in clear. Your name completely. Chapter 7. The female officer scrolled through years of messages between Mom and me, her expression darkening. She found our original discussion about buying gold together. Thank God you never changed phones. If you had, you'd be the one framed now. Her sharp gaze turned to Mom. Do you understand the consequences of false accusations and filing false police reports? Mom went white, laughing nervously. Oh, I'm just a simple woman. I don't know these things. Besides, she did take my gold. I can't read, don't know much about law. I thought gold prices were still the same. Who knew they'd multiplied? She was trying to cheat me. The female officer laughed coldly. Can't read, but you can coach your son to give false testimony? Do you know the penalty for that? You know nothing except how to frame your dying daughter who needs money for gallbladder surgery? As her mother, knowing she's sick, you do this? Mom deflated, changing tactics. Well, she should give me my 20 grams. And her 80 grams I'll pay her the original price. Then we're even. I felt only exhaustion. 10 years ago, 80 grams cost $20,000. Now it's nearly $1,000 per gram, that's $80,000. 4 times the original price. Mom glared at me. You're haggling with family over money? I'd lost all my former gentleness toward family. This illness had severed even those bonds. I stood firm. You don't care if I live or die. Why should I care about money? The female officer put her hand on my shoulder in silent support. Mom rolled her eyes and played victim again. We need money at home. Your brother's starting college. Everything costs money. Be goodier, my sweet daughter. Don't be so calculative. These words now made me sick. Is my brother my son? Did I give birth to him? I'll be calculative about everything. All the things he stole from Mayhale. Pay back. I kept every receipt. My brother looked up in disbelief. I'm your brother. How can you do this? Why drag me into your fight with Mom? Mom defended him. Yes, your brother's innocent. Don't falsely accuse him of stealing. I laughed at my brother. Where was this neutrality when you gave false testimony? Want to be neutral now? Then to Mom, how did things I bought end up in his hands? You accuse me without proof, but I have receipts proving he stole. Chapter 8. Mom, since you made him lie for you, face the consequences. I'm dying anyway, might as well take someone down with me. Give me my 80 grams or we all go to jail. Fear flickered in Mom's eyes. She seemed disappointed. Such bad luck, having a daughter who attacks her own mother. Where's my sweet little girl? I slumped in the chair, forcibly erasing all happy family memories. My voice came out weak but cold. That girl is dead. You killed her. This $80,000 is my lifeline. I'll fight for it. Mom shook her head in disappointment, then actually laughed, eyes full of contempt. Oh, it's just about money. How sad that we're fighting over this. I raised a daughter who'd abandon her mother and brother for money. Hearing this from someone profiting from my pain, I felt only amusement. Thanks for teaching me. You're such a good mother, willing to let me die rather than return what's mine. Seeing force wouldn't work, Mom softened, fake tears appearing. Of course I care about you. I'll pay for your surgery, but keep the rest of the money. Otherwise, when you marry, if your in-laws give you nothing, they'll look down on you. I'm doing this for your own good. I was done with her games. I needed surgery immediately. My burning forehead warned me. My condition was deteriorating. I wanted to live. I turned to the female officer. I want to press charges for false accusation, defamation, and perjury against my mother and brother. Also theft. Me brother stole my $15,000 phone. My expression was flat. I was no longer the pathetic daughter begging for scraps of affection. A $15,000 phone, that's a few years in prison. Chapter 9. Hearing her son might go to jail finally rattled Mom. She grabbed my hands, kneeling before me, still trying emotional manipulation. Her touch disgusted me. I used all my strength to push her away, turning my head, refusing to speak. My brother was nearly crying, begging Mom to stop. This is about my future. I don't want to go to prison. With no options left, Mom finally agreed. Fine. I'll return your 80 grams. Just don't press charges. We're family. I looked pointedly at the phone in my brother's hand. He immediately understood, removed his SIM card, and handed it over. Under the female officer's supervision, we signed a mediation agreement. After all this ordeal, I hadn't even left the station when I collapsed. In unconsciousness, my world went dark. In that darkness, I saw my childhood self in ragged clothes, crouched in a corner. Seeing me approach, she smiled. Openly. Are the beef noodles good? Does it get better when you grow up? I shook violently, sobbing. The noodles are delicious. It gets better. We'll have everything that's ours. Throughout adolescence, I never understood growth, growing pains, or what maturity meant. Some people reach 60 or death with the emotional development of children, that inner child buried with their aged body. My growing pains weren't just midnight leg cramps or bodily changes. They were drifting from family, being ripped from my roots, forced to return everything my parents gave with interest. They were harsh words from loved ones. They were schemes turning blood relatives into strangers. They were the person who taught me to walk, now seeing me only as an ATM for her and her precious son. What is growing up? I now believe it's when you stop expecting love that doesn't exist. When you realize caring for yourself matters more than serving others. When you want to reparent yourself. Sadly, I only learned this in middle age. I remember a quote, in that dark period, I pulled myself from the abyss. Without that person, I became that person. Chapter 10. A month later, I left the hospital after successful surgery. The windowsill held flowers and fruit from the officers. The nurse smiled while removing my last 4. Congratulations. You're officially discharged. I thanked everyone profusely. The female officer in civilian clothes stood at the door, smiling warmly. Come on, let's get some good food. A month ago, several officers had rushed me to the hospital together. The senior officer handled my admission, insisting on covering all costs, prepaying $40,000. The younger officer cleared my name online, educated my neighbor, forced him to apologize publicly. While I was unconscious, he even created a social media account for me, updating concerned netizens about my condition. That account now had over 500,000 followers. My 80 grams of gold were returned after I woke. The female officer had them made into beautiful bracelets, every gram accounted for. She'd even found me a suitable job for after my recovery. I wanted to live well for myself this time, and for these kind people who'd helped me. My brother failed his college entrance exams. After failing, he forced Mom to sell their house to send him abroad. He never made it overseas. Traffickers redirected him to Southeast Asia. My parents emptied their retirement savings trying to rescue him, only to bring back a broken son. Mom suddenly remembered she had a daughter and came begging. I simply smiled and told her to sue me for support if she wanted. They were finally tasting the bitter fruit they'd planted. Later, I worked while building that 500,000 follower social media account into a business. Life became comfortable. Within a few years, I'd saved enough for my own small house. Loving myself first, my career took off. I started my own company, bought my first car. Sometimes I think of that young fortune teller. His words eerily matched my journey. This is a false adverse fate. Your true destiny requires surviving family betrayal to achieve late success. Only at rock bottom will your fate reverse. Now I have wealth and peace. Finally, my fate reversed. From the abyss, using even poisonous nutrients, I grew my own mighty tree. I became my own mountain. The end.